Indonesian interpretation and English interpretation. At the end of the class, the lesson will be uploaded onto the YouTube channel of the Tripura School Education Department's YouTube channel. There will also be a Q&A segment at the end of the class today. And if you have any thoughts, reflections, or questions during the class, you can upload them you can post them on the chat, whether in Zoom or on YouTube or Facebook, in the comment section. And we will invite the teaching master to answer your questions. We thank all students who ask questions during the class, as it shows your attention to the lesson topic. And now more and more students have entered the session. Let me greet everyone.
看到的第一位是秀姬师姐，阿弥陀佛，秀姬师姐好。阿莲花 King 想师姐，阿弥陀佛，你好。莲花茵茵师姐你好。我看到了方管堂的同门，大家集体收看我们的课程，真的非常棒，非常亲近。好。看到我们的授课导师四莲来上师已经上线了，我们欢迎四莲来上师。看到了奇缘师姐，还有建清师兄，阿弥陀佛，建清师兄好。还有喜欢师姐，阿弥陀佛。大家如果方便的话，可以打开您的摄像头啊，这样子方便我跟您打招呼。目前为止，我看到有开摄像头的，就这一些。我们欢迎 Zoom、YouTube、Facebook 上所有参加我们线上课程的同学们。现在距离上课只有几分钟时间了。
With only a few minutes to spare before the commencement of the class, let us do a bit of revision of the content from previous lessons. We learned about what are Karman Sadhanas and also how are Karman Sadhanas, how can they be effective? If you remember any main points from the previous lessons, feel free to type them in the chat. And through the previous lesson, we learned about the term karma, referring to dharma, and there are pacifying sadhanas, enriching sadhanas, magnetizing and subjugating sadhanas. It is a category of worldly sadhanas. Buddhas and Bodhisattvas' compassion to deliver sentient beings. And there is a main deity for each Karman Sadhana. And Master Lien Lai also taught that for each Karman Sadhana, we need to supplicate for specific empowerments. We also learn about the 5 groups of Tathagatas, which also are related to the 5 kinds of Dhyani wisdom. And
这瑜伽四部法是对治凡夫的4种种性。
There are also sadhanas that remedy different kinds of poisons. For instance, Vajra group sadhanas are to remedy wrath, and Lotus group sadhanas to remedy ignorance and illusion. So these are just a few points from the previous lesson. And I'm sure that all students have your own rewards from attending the class, and you can share them in the chat.
那由于时间的关系，
And due to time constraints, let us prepare for today's lesson. And let's first welcome, with resounding applause, our teaching master for today's class, Master Shi Lianlai. And you can type in 777 to welcome him. And let's also welcome our TBF chairman, Master Cheng Chu, and also the director of the education department, Master Lian He, and Master Lian Jia of the public relations department, and all masters, senior reverends, Dharma instructors, Dharma assistants, and all disciples around the world. Thank you for attending today's lesson.
再次欢迎我们的思莲来上师开始为我们今天的精彩
And
授课。
let's invite him to start today's
今天
lesson.
也是这学期思莲来上师
And it
为
is
我们
also the
上
last
的最后一
lesson
堂
taught by Master Lian Lai for the course True Buddha Tantric Dharma 2.
哎，我调整一下我的镜头哈。
Okay, let me first adjust my video camera.
好，我们一起
And let's
恭敬合掌。
put our palms together
我们一
reverently
心祈
to
请根本传承上
wholeheartedly
师圣尊
invoke
莲生活佛，
our lineage guru,
一
living
切
Buddha
祈
Lian Sheng,
请真佛教义
wholehearted
在传承
invocation
祖
of
师，
True Buddha School's lineage gurus,
一心祈请金刚
wholehearted
界佛祖，
invocation of the
一
five
心祈请
Tathagatas,
坛城三宝， 放光加
invocation
持，
of
让我
the
们学习一切吉祥圆
deities
满。
of
我
the
们手持莲
shrine.
花，同
Let's
时
form the
手印。
Pamakumara
唵
mudra
咕噜
and
莲
recite
生
his
悉
mantra.
地吽，唵咕噜莲生悉地吽，唵咕噜莲生悉地吽，唵咕噜莲生悉地吽，唵咕噜莲生悉地吽，唵咕噜莲生悉地吽，唵咕噜莲生悉地吽。 我们最尊贵的根本上师圣
Our
尊莲
most
生活
revered
佛，师母
lineage
香金
guru,
刚
living
上
Buddha Lian
师，
Sheng,
我们
Sheng
尊
Wu
贵
Vajra
的
Master
教育
Lian
处处
Xiang,
长、兼校长、联合上
TBF
师，
Education
还
Department
有诸位
Director
上
Master
师、
Lian
诸
He,
位教
all
授师
masters, senior
法师、
reverends,
讲师、
reverends,
助教，
Dharma
我们大
instructors,
家
Dharma
晚上好。
assistants, all Dharma siblings. Good
今
evening to
天是
everyone.
我们的
Today,
应该是我的授
today's
课的真佛
lesson
密法二
is
最后一堂
my
课
last
了哦，
lesson for the course True Buddha Tantric
也
Dharma
是芥
2,
末法的最
and
后一
it's
节课。
also
上个星期我们已
um,
经从芥末法的
one
理
of the
念当
last
中知道
lessons
了有
for Karman
五步
Sadhanas.
的芥末法，就是细斋、增
We
益、
learned
平
about
安、
the
降
four
伏
common
跟
sadhanas
保
of
护。一
pacifying,
般保护是没有
enriching,
不坏的，所以我们只
magnetizing,
是
and
以克
subjugating.
服和认识它的
And
作
the
用为
fifth
主，而不是
category
想
of
要
Dharma
去
treasures is
修
not
这个法。
made publicly known. So it's just to give you a
刚
rough
才我
idea
想了好
of
久，又忘记要讲什么，
the category.
太兴奋了哦！有一种上可以讲完一堂课后休息了。等我想到我再想，我刚才要讲的东西，我
That
根
was
本忘
something
记
I
了。
wanted to say, but then I forgot. Maybe I was
哦，
too
我想起
excited.
来
It's
了。
the last
假如
lesson.
你们有收
Okay,
到那
I've
个
remembered.
教育处
If you've
的讲
received
义，你会发现
the
里面的芥末
class
法除了
materials
有上
from
师讲
TBSOU,
四
apart
大芥末法
from
之外，还
the
有一
Karman
些
Sadhanas
加
of
强的
the
芥末法。
Root Guru
为什么
Yoga,
没有
there
放在这里
is
一
also
起
mention
来
of some
授课呢？其实主
minor
要的原因
Karman
是他
Sadhanas,
们都
and
是
I have
大
not
同
included in
小
the
异的
lesson
哦，所
because
以
they
最
are
完
in
整
general
的
the
是
same.
在这个上师
So
四
the most
大
complete
成就法里面。
Sadhanas
只
are
要你
already
懂它
included
的
in the Root Guru
它的
Yoga's Karman Sadhanas.
它的概
And
念，
as
它
long
的
as you
所
know
有的五
the
个概念之后啊，你可以举一反三的，可以把
keys,
所
the
有
main
在
points
四
of
大
the
成就法所
practices,
学
you
到的这
can
一些
actually
芥末反
apply
应、
them.
观想还有咒
For
语，
instance, the
就是
common mudras and the
就在这个
visualizations,
其他
you
的
can
芥末
apply
法当
them
中。
in
然后
other
我忘
Karman
记，我要提
Sadhanas.
醒我一下哦，
If I forget, please remind me.
上师相应法我们用的
For
咒
instance,
是
in
世
the
尊的
Root
心
Guru
咒
Yoga,
唵
we
咕噜莲生
use
悉地吽。假
Guru
如是
Tat
别的佛
Mantra,
菩萨的
Om
话，
Guru
可
Nian
能
Shen
不
Siddhi
用
Hon.
哈。
But for other Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, what we use?
好，上师相应
So for Root
四大成就法里
Guru
面，主要
Yogas,
是以
for
德本
Karman
上师为
Sadhanas,
主尊，
the main
就是
deity
莲花种
is
子。
Pama
所以在还没
Kumara,
有开
our
始
lineage
之
true
前
guru.
呢，你要
And
修，
before you start the
首先
practice,
先理清一个概念
you
啊。
need to be clear
你
on
刚
one
开
point,
始
which
学
is that when you
正统
first
一法
begin to learn true
的
Buddha
时
Tantric
候，
Dharma,
你是以释迦行为主。
the four
当你
preliminaries
释迦
are the
行有
main
产
practice.
生感应
And
的现
only
象，或
when
者
you
有
have
声音的现象，你
yogic
就进
union,
入这个
signs of
四
yogic
相
union,
应法。
then you
但
can
是
start
你
to
修
practice
上
the Root Guru
四相
Yoga.
应法，不等同你
However, when
能
you
修
practice the Root
上
Guru
四
Yoga,
相应四
it
大成
doesn't
就
mean
法。
that you can
听得懂
practice
吗？
the four
因为你
Karman
修上
Sadhanas of
四
the
相
Root
应
Guru
法是
Yoga.
属于
Because
附
when you
属法，
practice the Root Guru
你要
Yoga,
把它变成
those are
芥末法，这个
transcendental
是要
methods.
特别
And when
细
you
选
want to
换取的。
transform
而
it
这
to
换的名
worldly
称就叫做
Karman Sadhanas,
上
you have
师
to
相
specially
应四大成就
supplicate
法
for
哦，
an
就是这
empowerment
个。
for the practice of
好，
Karman
假如你
Sadhanas.
们有上中务网站，
So
假如
if
还不
you
懂
know
的话，
how
要
to
学
use
习，
the
这
True
个
Buddha
是
School
非常
Admin
方
Network
便我
website,
们
you
我的佛
can
门在运用的
go
一
online to
个
search for
网
this
这
Karman
个
Sadhanas.
它有 app，
This is a
也有一
very
个网络
convenient
上的一个网站， 它可以直接让你进入，
platform
然后
for you
请
to
求灌
go
顶，
online
也
and
可
seek
以
remote
请求
empowerment for
加持。
certain
假如你需要超
practices.
度的
And
话，
if
也可以
you
请求
need
超度，
bardo
给
deliverance
你
for
的亲人或
deceased
者你的朋友
relatives or
们
friends,
做这些
you can
加持。
you
假
can
如你要细
also
心的
fill
话，
in
那
forms
你会
online to
需要一
pray
点时
for
间，会是有
bardo
些人，
deliverance.
假如你是
And
短
if
更，
you
假如
use
那你是
postal
时间
mail
跟你的时间不
services,
对的
it's
话，他
also
们也要等
possible
上班的时间来帮你处理。所以
to
这个网络的
request for these
申
supplications,
请
blessings, or remote
灌顶会
empowerments.
非常的方便，不过一定要事先皈依了，是莲生佛祖
However,
的
you
弟
have
子，
to
你才可
first
以
take
用这个网
refuge
站来祈求跟着上
um,
师的
before you
换
can
哦。
use
所
this
以在这个
website portal
四大成
to
就法里
request
面
for
哦，
remote
服务
empowerment
是
for
需要
certain
钱灌的
practices.
哦。所以你
And
假如真
for
的想修这
the
个法
Dharma
门，
treasures
保护
part
的话，
of
就要
the
自己亲
five
自
Karman
去到
Siddhanas,
西雅图面
that
见
cannot
师尊来求这个
be
法。
remotely empowered. You cannot receive a
好，
remote
事
empowerment
不
for
宜
that. You
迟，
have
我
to
们直接
receive the
进入重
empowerment
点。
in person.
你一般要修这个芥末
Let's
法，你一
go
定要
into
需要一
the
些
key
道
points of
具，
today's
我们不
class.
称道具，我们
Before
称为法器啊，
for
道具。
uh,
首先你
for the
需要的
practice of
是
these Karman
师尊
Sadhanas,
的
you need
实相
special
或法相。
Dharma
这
implements.
里我们可以
The
以莲
most
花种
important
子
is
哦。
the
假如你修
statue
别的
or
古尊的
image
话，当
of
然你需要的
Pamakumara.
是那一个古
If
尊的
if
实
you're
相
practicing
法
the
相。
Karman
然
Siddhanas
后
of
他们
another
会在
deity, then you
几
need
种
the
颜色
image or
的
statue
法
of
衣。
that particular deity. And then you
假
need
如你不是要修别的
attire of four
法衣，像
colors.
细
You
斋，
need the
你只需
Dharma
要修细
robes
斋，那你
of
准备白色的法衣就好
a
了。
specific color.
你假如没有白色
If
法衣，你
you
可以
don't have
穿
white Dharma
干净
robes,
的白色衣
you
服
can wear
哦。
clean white
假如有法
attire.
衣，你就穿法
If
衣；
you
没有的
have
话，你就
Dharma robes,
你
then
就
you can wear those.
穿颜色
If
是白
you
色的衣服哦。
don't, you can wear, you
一
can
般
be fully
你可以
attired in white
你需要准备四
garments
种颜
or
色的法
clothing.
衣。假如你要
In
修
general, you need
这个
to
四大成就
prepare
的每一个细
the Dharma
斋
robes of
真
four
意
colors
心爱祥
to
法。
practice
细
all
斋是要
four
穿白
kinds of
色的，
Karman
真要
Sadhanas.
穿黄
And
色，
for
应该是
disaster
穿黄
pacifying
色，
Sadhanas, you
然
need
后
to
香
wear
是
white
需要穿
attire for
黑色
magnetizing red,
哦。相
for
信这些
subjugating
基
black.
本的
These are
这些颜色
basic
大家应该很熟悉了吧？
colors
好，
that you should
坐
be
姿
familiar
它
with.
是有四个
And
形
for
状的
the
哦。等
shapes
下
of the
我们一
tables,
起
there are
进入去
four
看那个
particular
过程。
shapes, which we
好，
will
八
go into
供
later.
跟八供
As
跟
for
不
the
供
five
基本就
offerings
是
and
花
the eight
香
offerings,
灯茶果，
the five
再
basic
加
offerings
上
are
第
flowers,
三个就
incense,
是
tea,
清
light,
水、北照水跟这个法螺。所以假如你只是要简
and
单一
fruit.
点，五供
For
就可
the
以了。
eight
花
offerings, they also include
茶
soapy water and
哦，
also
给
the
香
Dharma
已经放
conch
进去了，
and also
所以这个香应也是在武
uh,
功之一吧。
fragrant
但是那武
anointing
功是摆在
incense.
前面的哦，武功是摆在前面，香
The
是
five
香是
offerings are
是点
placed
燃
in
的哈，
front,
放在自己的香
but
炉里
for the
面。
incense, it's placed
所
in the
以当我
censer.
们知道准备好这些法
When
器之
you
后，我们
prepare
下一
these
个
Dharma
要了
implements,
解
you
每
need
一个
to
戒
next
握法，
understand that
它
for
有自
each
己的
type
时
of
间，
Karman
还有他
Sadhana,
们的乐
it
趣。
has its own time and also its own dates for practice.
一般来讲，
So
初一
in
这里指
general,
的日子
from
是指农历啊，不
the
是这个
all the dates listed
阳
here
历，
are
农历。初一
of
到
the
十
lunar
八，
month.
你假
From the
如
first
算
to the
它
eighth
的
day,
天数的话，你会发现它
if
有
you
8
count the
天，
number of
因为
days,
你
there are
可
eight
以
days.
可以
So
调整，你可
you
以
can
初二开始
adjust.
修
You
到
can
初八，
start practicing from the
你
second
可以
day of the
修
lunar
到
month to
初
the
七。
eighth lunar month, or from the
真
first to the
意的
seventh
话，
day.
它
For enriching sadhanas,
它应该也是8天吧，9、10、11、12、13、14、15。哦，不是，真意是
for
你一
enriching
错过那个初
sadhanas,
9， 你就没有办法抽
if you
7天
miss
了
the
哦。
ninth
然后
day, you
敬
will not
爱
be able
正
to
6、
complete
17、
7
18、
days
19、20、
of
21、
practice.
22、23。
For
哦，敬爱是8
magnetizing
天
sadhanas,
啊。
there are
敬
eight
爱可
days.
以也可以从17
So
号
you
修
can start
啊，
from the
或者
17th
16号，它有
to
8
the
天。
23rd, or
降
from
服的话，它
16th
就准
to the
也是7
22nd.
天而
So
已。
for subjugating, it's
假
also
如
only
你
7 days
那一个
from the
月没有
24th to the
30
30th
怎么
day
办呢？
of the lunar month. And if there isn't a 30th day in that month,
长
what do you
老
do?
建议的是，
The
因为它的
Ayushmat
时
has
间有2
recommended
个，一
that
个是要热
there
当
are
中，一个
two
是月当中。
times.
什么叫
One
日当
is
中，什么叫月当
日当
中？
中 and
我们先
月当中.
讲
What
相
is
处的
日当
时间啦，
中?
因为刚好碰到这个难题。因为它的月尾有时候
Let's
是29
talk
号
about
而
this
已，它没有
because
30号。 所
sometimes
以碰到这
there are
个
only
日子的
29
话，
days in
刚
a
好
month. So what
降服
happens? What
法
do you
就可以
do
修2个时间了。什么叫
on
热当中，什么叫月
so
当中？
what do you do
你
for
看
those
太
months
阳
with
从
29 days?
东边升起来的时
日当中
候，那个
refers
太阳不
to
是一直慢慢转，一直往东
the
边吗？
the sun will
往它
rise from the
东边的
east
时
and
候
it will move in an
就是
arc
热当中。
over.
好，
So if
这
it's
就是
when the
热
sun
当
is
中，
right above your
这就
head,
是正
that's
热的时候。
日当中.
一
So
般
that's
我
the
们
sun
我
right
们
in
理
the
解时
center.
间就是12点了，这样
And the
子其实就
time
是太
would
阳，就是
correspond
你假如
to
太阳
12
底下
noon.
照下来，你会发现你的影子是
Usually
一个
that's
圆
when
圈
your
哦，这个
shadow
就
is
叫
right
像
beneath
那个
you,
就叫热当中。
beneath your feet, and
月
that's
当
when
中
the
你
sun
没
is
办
right above
法
your head. 月
看到太
当中
亮，因为
literally
初
translates to the
30、
moon
初
being right
29
above
月
your
亮是看
head.
不到的。
On the
好，
29th or
只有
30th
我们知
day,
道
you
初
can't see the
一
moon.
是看不到月亮，
So we know
十
that
五是
the
看到
first of
月
the
亮
lunar month,
哦。
you
所
can't
以
see
这
the
个这
moon.
段
You can
这
only
个
see the moon
月当
on the
中我们是看不
15th,
到月亮，是暗
um,
的哦。所
on the
以
15th
它
day
可
when
是
it's
月
the
亮
most
是有
round,
在，只是说
but the
看
moon
不
is
到它
still
的
there.
光而已。
It's just that we
所以
can't
在
see
那
its
个
light.
时间，
So
所以一
at
般
that
就
time,
是凌晨12 点
usually
的时
it
候哦。
refers to midnight.
所以在西斋它
And
的时间是
as
太
for
阳下山后，
pacifying our
一
disasters, the
跟
time
其他的
is
国
after the
家，他
sun
们每个
sets.
太阳下山的时间不一定的
For
哦。
each
假如你
country, the
我
time when the
们东
sun
南亚
sets
的话，
is
应该都
different.
是7
In
点的，
Southeast
这个
Asia,
有一些
it's
地区
usually
是不一
around
样。
7,
所以
but
这里
some
就是可
areas
以
or
参
regions are
考哦。
different. So these are
我放一个
just
时间，至少你
reference
知道是
time
傍晚。
periods.
假如你
So
是在
you
美
know that
国，
it's
有
the
时候
time
美
of
国4、5
evening.
点都暗下来了。
In
所以
the
你那个
States,
4、5
sometimes
点
the
就
sun
是
sets
修
around
西
4 or
斋的
5
时候，
p.m., and that's
就是
when
太
you
阳
practice
下
the
山的时
disaster
候。
pacifying
真意
sadhanas.
就是太
For
阳
enriching
出生的
sadhanas,
时
it's
候，这
when the
也是要
sun
根据你
rises,
当地的地
and
方。
this also
时间
depends
是可以
on
参
the
考。假如你的
when the
当
sun
地的地
actually
方
rises
5
in your
点就
local
亮起
region.
来了，那么
So if the
5
sun
点就是
rises
你
at
们要
5 a.m.,
修真意的
then
时
that
间。
is when you
为什么要
practice the
在这
enriching
个5点
sadhanas.
的时候，要在太
Why
阳刚升起来的时
do
候
you
修这个
practice
真意
it
呢？
when the sun
是
just
因为
rises?
当太阳
Because
升出
when the
升
sun
起来
just
的时候，它是
rises,
黄金色的，
it is
所以
a
那是代
golden
表
light, and
光
that
啊，代表钱哦，它是有它的含
represents
义的。敬爱，因
the
为你要
enriching
说
of
偷摸摸
blessings.
嘛，你不可能让你知
And
道你在
for so it has its
在爱谁
significance.
嘛。
As
所
for
以这个都是
magnetizing,
晚上的
you
时
have to
候
do it
12点之
secretly.
后修的
So
哦。
it's done
这个降服
after
是不
midnight.
是要在
Um,
最热烈的
and what
太阳
about
之下修呢？
subjugating?
因
Why
为
do
是
you
要
practice
借用
it
这个太
when
阳的
it's
光啊，
the sun
来
is at
降
its
服这些
fullest,
这
or
个
when the
这些
sun is right
坏
above
的，
your head?
所以它有它特
Because
别
you're
时
using the
间的。可
strongest
是为什么
power
会选到
to
热当中，是
subjugate
在月亮
Maras.
最暗的时候呢？我
And what
相信应
about
该是有它
when
的
the
它
moon
的
is right
磁
above
场
your
在里
head?
面
I'm
哦。这个
sure
我就不
there
太
is
懂。
well, it also has its own magnetic fields or force, but Grandmaster didn't explicitly explain. So, but he did mention that when the sun is right above your head, it will generate the greatest or an immense power. And Ayushmat has also recommended that if you practice two methods on the 29th, if you feel uneasy doing that, then you can just wait for the next month when there are 30 days in the month. So you don't have to memorize this. You can look at the next image. For the altar setup for pacifying sadhanas, your altar faces south. So you just need to remember that your position uh, there's a diagram which I will show, and hopefully that will clarify things. So let's learn about the shapes of tables corresponding to the sadhanas. For pacifying, it's a round circular table. For enriching, it's a square. It's not a rectangle, it's a square. For magnetizing, it's a semicircle. For subjugating, it's a triangle. If you're not able to find these strange tables, there is another method. You can prepare a table with a flat surface and then place a piece of wood on top, which is of this shape. So, for instance, a semicircle piece of wood is covering a table, and then it becomes a semicircular table. And then you place a cloth over it of the corresponding color, then it will suffice. So this is if you're not able to find tables in these specific shapes. So for pacifying, a tablecloth that's white. For enriching, yellow tablecloth. For magnetizing, red tablecloth. And however, the Dharma robes for magnetizing should be yellow. Dharma robes are also okay. For subjugating, the tablecloth should be black or blue-green. And we also need to prepare the 5 offerings. The colors of the flowers should also correspond to the sadhana that you are practicing. So we know that there are white flowers. We know, are there white incense? If you can find, that's great. If you can't find it, then never mind. For candles, we know that there are white colored candles. For tea, there are white teas, but you can just try to, as much as possible, to find offerings that are of the corresponding color. So, are there fruits that are white? I think so. And so you can extrapolate from this. What about the light when you're practicing, when you are visualizing the idam radiating or shining light upon you? Only for subjugating, the light is not shining on you, but the light is shining on the person or opponent that you are subjugating. For pacifying, subjugating, and magnetizing, the light is shining on you, the practitioner. There is also requirements for the mala beads that you use. You need to, it needs to match the corresponding sadhana. For pacifying, it's white or white jade or crystal. For enriching and magnetizing, it's red or yellow mala beads. And for subjugating, it's black or even from human bone if you are not afraid. So I have made this diagram to try to summarize the key details. If you're sitting in the center, your opposite you should be the idam deity or the main deity of the sadhana. If you look at the Chinese characters, it can be a little confusing because it will tell you sit in the north and face south, and that can be very confusing. So I'm just trying to simplify things. Just look at this diagram and then remember when Master Lianing was teaching about homas and he mentioned the triangle for subjugating. The point of the triangle should be facing outwards. It shouldn't be facing yourself. It's subjugating the opponent. And for the 1st to the 8th day, it's pacifying. It's also facing north. For magnetizing, it's facing west. For enriching, it's facing east. So if you look at this diagram, this was actually supplied by Ayushmat and Ayushmat. So I have to thank the Ayushmat for sharing this diagram. which summarizes the information in the previous two slides. And there are also postures that are related to the corresponding sadhanas. When you're practicing pacifying sadhanas, you can sit in a lotus position or in any ordinary position. So we can start from looking at the diagrams. So from the very left side, that's the lotus position, the full lotus, when the 2 feet are facing upwards. There is a point to take note for the full lotus position. When your feet, the soles of your feet, the true lotus position is when the soles of the feet are facing skyward or upward, and it's not facing yourself. So it's not twisting your knee. And some people have the mistaken conception when you are twisting your knee, and it will actually hurt your body. So a successful lotus position is when the soles of your feet are actually facing upward, whether it's full lotus or half lotus. So you need to find yoga teachers who will be able to guide you how to correct your position so that you can do the lotus position or the half lotus correctly. So you need to be mindful not to harm or damage your knees. And some people who are not able to do the full lotus, they can do the half lotus. So this is also known as Dan Pan. So for pacifying sadhanas, you can do full lotus or half lotus or san zuo, which is the third image from the left. So you can just sit in a more comfortable position. This is more general. And for enriching sadhanas, if you can sit in the lotus position, that's the best. If you're not able to, the Ru Yi Zuo is the fourth position from the left, where your knee is bent up vertically. That's also Ru Yi Zuo, literally translates to wish fulfilling posture. So some with their right knee bent, they feel more comfortable, or vice versa. So for pacifying or enriching sadhanas, there isn't a very stringent requirement or advanced requirement for the posture. However, for magnetizing sadhana, you have to do a half squat to practice the position where your feet are placed side by side. Your buttocks cannot touch the ground. So it's sort of like in a midway position. This is to remind you that love is like sort of in the middle where you can't go up or down. It's literal translation. So subjugating sadhanas, it's when you have to put your right foot over your left foot, and you have to squat as well. So this posture is sort of like a physical reminder that it's difficult to practice subjugating sadhanas. It's difficult for the person practicing as well as difficult for the people on the receiving end of the subjugating sadhanas. So you also have to hold this position while reciting the subjugating mantras for 108 mantras. Maybe after reciting halfway, you might cease practicing the sadhana. So it's a physical reminder of the damaging effects of subjugating sadhana. When you when you step on yourself, it hurts. So when you harm somebody else, similarly, it hurts them. So this is sort of like an indirect method of reminding us of that effect. And we also need to learn about the ways of reciting mantras. When we recite mantras, the sound is slightly different. Let's look at this table. When practicing pacifying, you need to recite compassionately with a compassionate gaze. If you don't know what that means, you can imagine somebody that you really like very much, or your grandchildren or children, and you have that compassionate gaze toward them. For enriching sadhanas, it's you need to engender or have a very cheerful, joyful feeling as though you have just won the lottery. So you have to be very excited, ecstatic, jubilant. For magnetizing and sadhanas, subjugating sadhanas, there is a common point, which is that they need to have the Vajra gaze, or so it's sort of like you're using this Vajra gaze to hook the other person when it's sort of like your eyes are slanted, and the mantras are very quick tempoed and very energetic. But for magnetizing, there is that feeling of joy, that kind of feeling. You have to try to imagine it for yourself. Simply described, it's sort of like there is an expecting heart or mind. For subjugating sadhanas, the sound is different in the sense that it's very ruffled, and it's not something that is only when you're angry. Like for instance, when you are scolding your children, so it's not from wanting to kill someone, but it's sometimes you're trying to prevent them from harming themselves. You want the best for your children. So that kind of wrath is different. And you need to have, I will not demonstrate it, but I will invite Grandmaster to demonstrate by let's listen to recordings of Grandmaster's pronunciation or chanting of mantras. And let me uh start let me find the audio recordings.
我没有分享到声音，不好意思，我再来一次。看到的话点个头，让我知道，看到了吗？看到了哦，那我打开声音哦。
Om Etta Sato A Hom Pe Om Etta Sato A Hom Pe Om Etta Sato A Hom Pe Om 真巴拉查能查那耶梭哈 Om 真巴拉查能查那耶梭哈 Om 真巴拉查能查那耶梭哈Hom 擦字 Hom 热 Hom 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 擦字 Hom 热 Om 金母西地 Hom Hom 配 Om 金母西地 Hom Hom 配 Om 金母西地 Hom Hom 配
好，我们已经
Okay,
从师尊
so
的
we have
这
heard
个视频中已
Grandmaster's
经大概知道这个
audio
细根
recordings.
细在
So we
实
have
际
an
现在
idea
降服
of
的
pacifying,
方式哦。
enriching,
接下来
magnetizing,
我
and
们要继
subjugating
续在
mantras.
修这个
And
芥末法真行的部
when
分。
we practice the main sequence of the
前期我
sadhanas
不讲
of these
就是你们大概
common
都挺
practices,
熟悉的，我
I
们
will
直接
not
进入
talk
这个
about
真行。
the beginning sequences of the sadhanas because you are probably familiar with that already.
真行的部分的时
For
候
the main
它
sequence
有
of the
2次
sadhanas,
放光。
there
光
are
就是
two
简单的讲，你在招请每
times
一
when
个
there's light shining.
你要招请主尊
When
下来
you
的时候，
are
他们都是
invoking
要
the
放
main
光一
deity,
次的哦。
they all have
这里
to
我们
shine light
先
once.
讲，你
And
修
here
芥末
let's
法
first
没
talk
有
about
用芥末法手印来修。这个芥末
Karman
法，这个芥
Sadhanas
末手印
practice
这个
without the
原
use
因上
of
是在
Karman
讲解这
mudras.
个附魔法的时
The
候，这个
Karman
意思
mudras
哦，你们
are
不要
different
混淆
from
哦。
the
附
Karman
魔这
mudras
个
mentioned
芥末
by
手印
Marceline
只
for
有
Homa.
得到
Those are
附
different
魔法的
because
灌顶以
those can
后
only
才能
be
用。 而
used
这
or
个是上我
utilized
们学
if
习
you have
的
received the
细真
empowerment
怀
for
素
Homa.
的芥末手
As
印，
for
一定
the
要
four
得
Karman
到了
Sadhanas,
上师
you have
相
to
应
receive
四大
the
成就法灌顶之后
empowerment
才能
for
用，
the
明白
Rukru
吗？比
Yoga's
如说我
four
要修
Karman
王财神
Sadhanas.
法，
So if you want to
哦，
practice
我
Yellow
要修这
Jambla
个，我要修这个王
Sadhana
财神的芥
and
末法，
you want to
那么
practice
我
the
要借
Karman
这个真
Sadhana
意
of
手
Yellow
印，
Jambla,
那你首
you
先
need
要先
to you
有
want
这个上
to
师相应
form the
四
enriching
大成就法
mudra,
灌顶，你
then
才
you
可以
need to
用。
first
现
receive
在我们先是
the
讲比较简单的，就是没有
Rukru
用芥末
Yoga's
手印的
Karman
芥末法。
Sadhanas
你刚
empowerment
开始
before
的
you
时候，你
can
要
use the
招请
Karman
莲花
mudra.
童子降临的时
At the
候，
beginning,
一
when
样
you
是借
are
莲花童子手
invoking
印，
Pama Kumara to descend, you form the Pama
然
Kumara
后你
mudra. Number
你
two,
招请莲花
after
童子
you
出来的
invoke
这个形
Pama
象，跟你
Kumara,
平时的形象可能会有差别哦。第一个
this
差别是什
Pama
么？
Kumara might be a little
它
different
出
from
现
the
的时候，我们
Pama
这里
Kumara
是
that you
以降
normally
伏
invoke.
法为主，
Because, for
为
instance,
律
if you are
法，这样比较容
practicing
易让你们知道它的
subjugating
差别。
sadhanas,
你招
I'll
请
use
莲
this
花
as an
童子
example so you
以
can see the
降
difference.
伏法为例的话，
If you
出
are
来的
invoking
莲花
Pama
童
Kumara
子，
for
他
subjugating
不是有
sadhanas,
手上拿着一朵莲花吗？那个莲花的
Pama
颜色是
Kumara
黑色的，
should be holding a
然后
black
它的莲台也是
lotus,
黑色的，
and the lotus
然后
that
上
he's
面
sitting
出
on
来
is a
的
black
光
lotus,
也是黑
and
色的。
he is
但是你
shining
要做三
black
方加倍的话，
light.
你就不要这样做了，好
However,
不好？
if you are
假如你
visualizing the
是
three
要
light blessing, then
做
you
这
can't
个
do
降
this.
伏法的话，你就要
If
这样
you
子
are
想。假如
practicing
你只是要做三方
subjugating,
加倍，
then
那你应
you
该是没有进入芥
visualize
末法的时
the
候，
black lotus,
做完
black
三方
lotuses.
加倍之后，
Three
进
light
入芥
blessing
末
is
法这个
different.
观想。进入芥末法这个观想
When
的时候，
you
就要
enter
把
the
你
Karman
招
Sadhana,
请来的这个莲花童子，它
the
变成
Pama
黑色
Kumara that you have
哦，它的
invoked,
法衣是黑色的。
the
我们现在
the
讲龙袍法
clothing
哦，
that
因为
he's
这
wearing,
其
the
实
dragon
虽然
vest,
你是以它的龙袍为主的话，
lotus
你就观
that
想
he's
它是
holding, and the
黑色，
lotus that he's
然后
sitting
它的
on,
手
they
抓住的
transform
莲花
into
是黑
black.
色，
That this is
它做
after
的
the
莲
three
台
light
也是黑
blessing
色的。
visualization.
然后你要观想你的
And you
欠
also
债
have
的
to
人来到你
visualize
面
that, for
前，
instance, the
然后
people who
师
owe you
尊
money
现出愤怒像，放黑
come
光，
in front of
指
you,
着欠
and
债的人，让他
Grandmaster
身心不安。
shows a
然后
wrathful
你可以在
expression
观
and
想
it
当中
radiating
自己想
dark
出那一种画
light,
面哦，就是说
and you
你
can
欠我
try
的
to
钱刚刚
visualize
还
or
完了，是我
imagine
自己的
that
钱哦，你
your
可以把它想出来的，然
those
后
who
你
owe
让
you
他对
money
你产
will
生恐
return you
惧，然
money
后
quickly.
赶快从他口袋
So
里
they
面
will
挖
feel
出来，
uncomfortable,
然后
uneasy,
或
and
者
they
转
will
一个身，
take out the
把一个
money
很
from
大
their
的
pockets,
钱还到你的手
or
上。
they
这
will
种画面
return
的观
a
想就
large
很无
sum
以
of
发
money
挥了哦。
to
不过
you.
师尊这里
So
讲
you
的话，
can
只
use
是
your
让你有一个
imagination.
概念，赶
But
快去
this is
做。
just to give
然后
you
我
an
们就开
idea of
始
how
念
to
108
do
遍。
this. And
嗡
then
啊
you
吽
recite
古贝阿
108
吽萨萨
times
玛
of
哈， 连声乐令
Om
吽
Ao
吽
Hom Guru
吽。
Be Aha
现在
Sasamaha
赶
Lian
快
Sheng
还给我。
Le
假
Ling.
如是要帮人家修的话，就
Le
念
Ling
这个
means
人的
command,
名字，然
and
后
Le
City
Ling
Home，
so and so to
好不
return money to so and so city home. So, for instance, if deity doesn't have their name in the mantra, please don't use yellow jambala for subjugating sadhanas.
我们不是要念手哈吗？还没有念手哈之前就解勒令。
Before the end of the mantra, soha, before the soha at the end of the mantra, you can recite the 勒令 so and so to return money to so and so. This is Why is it that some people don't practice the Karman Sadhanas of the root guru yoga? Because maybe if you have already attained yogic union with your idam, then you can practice the Karman Sadhanas of your idam deity. So you can adjust accordingly. And next, let's go into the summoning part. We talked about subjugating just now, so now let's talk about pacifying. Here, you visualize Grandmaster. He's wearing a Dharma King crown, a white a dragon vest, sitting on a white lotus and holding a white lotus and shining white light upon the practitioner. And for enriching, he's wearing a 5 Buddha crown with a yellow dragon vest sitting on a yellow lotus. He descends to the altar with a radiant smile and shines yellow light on the practitioner. So it doesn't explicitly state he's holding a yellow lotus, but you can add in the visualization. For magnetizing, he's wearing a Dharma King crown, 5 Buddha crown, red dragon vest, sitting on red lotus, smiling, descending to the altar, shining red light on the practitioner. And all the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas are surrounding and they are shining great, brilliant red light. So, although it doesn't mention for enriching that the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas are there, you can add in the visualization they are there. For pacifying sadhanas as well, when Grandmaster or Pamakumara descends, the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas are around. For the main sequence visualization, if you're doing pacifying, visualize white light shining upon yourself, or if you're helping other people, then you have to visualize that person in front of you or hold their photograph and visualize white light shining on that photograph. Or if you're visualizing them in front of you, then visualize a white light shining on them in your visualization. And for enriching, visualize the deities shining great yellow light upon yourself, or visualize your business thriving, prospering, or the digits on your account expanding. And if it's for magnetizing, then visualize red light. And if it's for if it's for a lay practitioner who's praying for a relationship, then you visualize the other party that you wish to attract. And
我不这里不太想讲哦，就是你不要想得太过分就好了，就是让就是一般就是抱在一起就可以了。
And you can visualize the couple embracing. If it's for subjugating, or for instance, if you're hoping for like couples to have a harmonious marital relationship, then you visualize them in that harmonious marital relationship. For subjugating, reciting mantras or pacifying sadhanas, you can recite the mantra Om Ahom Kurupe Ahasasa Maha Lian Sheng Le Ling. So and so's illness will be healed. City home. Or if it's for legal troubles, you can recite Om Ahom Kurupe Ahasasa Maha Lian Sheng Le Ling. So and so's legal troubles are resolved. City home. And so on and so forth. So for Kriya Tantra level, we need to follow the steps exactly. If you are uneasy making adjustments, you can either directly consult Grandmaster Lu, or you can write a question, submit a question to the Interaction is Power segment for Grandmaster's Discourse and try to get try to receive an answer from Grandmaster regarding your question. For the
可能
practice
你们之前已经听过了，叫做
of
转
the Karman
珠
Sadhanas,
明。
there is
其
this
实
thing
这
called
个转珠明是不是在
Ming,
很早以前就
which
教
is
过弟
about
子们了哦，在
which
教四大
translates
乘术
to
法。这个
turning
转
of the
珠明
mala, illuminating
它
blessing.
本身跟联
This
姻上师
Zhuan
在
Ming
教你们附
is
魔法的时候是一样的，可是有一些
the
步骤
same
没有做而已。
is similar to what Master Lenin taught
我们
when he was
根
teaching
据这
about
个
Homa,
个
but there are some
等一下啊
steps that are omitted. So
我拿
just
这
hold
个
on a
刚开
moment.
始
Let
的时
me
候是
hold up
用你的
these
右
beads.
手抓住
First,
母珠哦
use your right hand to hold the
啊，
guru
这个
bead
是我的母珠，
of the
我
mala,
抓起我的母珠
and I'm
啊，
holding
右
it
手抓起母
with
珠，
my right hand.
抓了之后，刚
After
才
holding
用
it,
转你的左手2圈，
rotate it twice, over your left hand. Make 2 rounds over your left hand,
啊，然后就变成这样了。其实
and
它
that's what
其
it
实有些
becomes.
念珠啊，
If the
以前
mala,
你可能以前你没有看过念这个佛头前面有一个佛牌，对吗？有些是写
maybe
真
some of you
佛
have
钟的，
seen
它
that
是
there
不是
are
为了
mala
这个
beads
转珠
with
明
a
设计
pendant
的一个
with
念珠。
Zhen for
假如你没有
Zhong's
那个
True
佛，你没有
Schools
那个真佛钟那个牌的话，任
words
何
written on
佛
it.
牌都行啊。
And
这个就是放
if
在
you have
手
that,
上，
that's
放
good.
在
If
你
you
右手
don't,
之后，
and
你要
other
干什么
malas
用
are
呢？
also
你要
possible.
观想前面的莲花童子
Visualize
放
the
光
Pama Kumara
照
in
你
front
的
of
这
you,
只手，就是从这个
blessing
佛牌里
your
面啊， 佛牌
mala
里面
beads from the
观想它
pendant
照
of
你
your
的
mala
手
beads
啊。
and then shining on
照
your
你手干
hand.
嘛呢？要让这个光啊，从你的左手进
Let
到
this
你的
light
全身，让
enter
你
into
的
your
左
body
手
from
清
your
净
right
了
hand, so your
啊。
right hand is
转了之
purified,
后，就是
and then
开始
you
要
turn the
转
mala
你的右
beads,
手嘛，当你转过去
then you
啊，佛牌也是要朝住
hold
前面，
the
观
mala
想
beads with your left
至
hand
尊放。
and
假
visualize
如你修
Grandmaster.
的是细斋，你观想的是白光
If you're doing a pacifying
进到你
sadhana,
这只
visualize
手，
white light,
你修
and the
真
white
意的
light
话，
enters into your left
观
hand.
想的就是
If
红光。
it's
你修
magnetizing, visualize red light.
哎，
If
我是讲
it's
错啊，真意的话是黄
if it's
光，
enriching,
敬爱
it's
的话是红光。
yellow light.
降伏的话，
Magnetizing is red
假如
light.
你心里
If
面
it's
毛毛的话，是讲黑色
subjugating
的气进来的话，
sadhanas, if
你
you
先
feel
是蓝
uneasy
光。
visualizing
好，
black
假
light,
如
you
你
can
感觉有
visualize
点毛
blue
毛的，
light.
要观想黑色进来我身体的话，你可以把它变成蓝光啊。
You can visualize
做
blue
完
light
之
entering
后，
your
一
body.
般来讲，假如
So
是附魔
after
的时候，会把它放在2只手，这样
So
就
for a
在
Homa,
这
you
里
would hold
不
up
需
the
要
mala beads,
做到右
but
手的
for
时
Karman
候，
Sadhanas,
做完之
you
后
don't
就是
have to do
左
that.
右
You don't
手
have
已
to
经
hold up
清
the
净了
mala
嘛。
beads.
这
So
个
you
时
have
候你要把它
purified
转
both
回
hands,
来你的
and now
左
you
手，
have to
为什么
hold
呢？
it back
因为你
with
要用你
your
的右手
right
来
hand,
借那个
with your
天
left
的
hand,
手印。
because you need to
借那个
use
天的手
your
印
right
干嘛
hand to
呢？
form the
是
Karman
为了
mudras.
你要有个画面哦，
You
你
need to
要
have
前面的
the
光
image
进
in your
到你
mind.
的右手，从
The
你的身体
light
完
enters
全
your
再从你
right
这只手出
hand,
去，
it goes throughout
做加
your,
持，
circulates in
进
your
到
body
满。
and goes out
你要有一个
from
画
your
面，你
left
2
hand.
只手清净之后，你把它
So
再调回来
the
放在你的
the
左
light
手。为什么？你要接受能量。
you
好，
need
从前
to
面接受能
receive
量
the
之后，
energy from the
转
deity in
进你
front of
身
you.
体，
It
去到你
enters
的
in your body and
右
circulates,
手，
and it goes to
做
your right
加
hand,
持的
and
作
it's
用。
able to
好，
perform
清楚了
the
吗？
blessing
你这只手一定是
of
往
the
前面，
function that you
就代
are
表你在
trying to
接受
achieve.
这
So
个细真怀
this
素
is
的磁场。
represents that you are
你看当这
receiving
是
that
加的
power
时
of
候，好，
pacifying,
看到完前
magnetizing,
以
and
前
so
都是
on.
师尊早
So
期
these
的
are
年轻人
images
样貌。
of
这个手印看
Grandmaster
不清楚不要紧哦，
forming
等下我们会
the
有个比较
mudras,
大的手印
etc.
哦。
When
在
and
西
these
斋
photographs were taken when he
真
was
意
young. So
敬爱，
pacifying,
然后降服
enriching,
这就是
magnetizing,
神那个种子
subjugating,
啦。
and Dharma
假如
treasures.
你对这
So
2颗
from
种子，
left
就
to
是人家
right,
会骂你
that's
的
the
哦。
sequence.
这个就是神种子。
So
好，我们放大一点看这个手
let's
印哦。
take a closer look
细
at the
斋它
mudras
就
for
有点像
pacifying
宣
on the
誓
left column.
啊，我
It
发
looks a little
誓
bit like
我不要再做
swearing,
这件事了，
or
就是宣誓啊。
I
就
swear I'm
是
not
你
going to
做
do
了
this
之
again.
后，
The 3
白光
fingers
从
with
你的
your
手心
thumb
左
pressing
手
on
边，
your
然
little
后这
finger.
个
So when the light enters your body and then it goes out from the hand holding the Karman mudra, if you are trying to bless yourself, you point the mudra at yourself. And if you are helping somebody else, you point the mudra at somebody else. If you have to photograph that person, then you point the mudra at the photograph. If you are trying to heal that person, visualize the person lying on the bed, and after the blessing, the person jumps up and is totally invigorated or becomes well. For enriching sadhanas, the four fingers represent your wish and the thumb represents yourself. So you're wrapping yourself with the wish. It's as though the wish is in your hands. So whether you need a car or you're wishing for a house, you wish for it to be in your hands. So the light enters your right hand, circulates and goes to your left hand, and then you have to hold the mudra at your chest so that it's signifying that you have your wishes fulfilled. So you're not using it to bless. So this is different from pacifying. For enriching sadhanas, it is placing the chest. So if you want to bless somebody else for enriching, then the light will shine from your chest toward the other person. So this is a slight difference for enriching sadhanas. For magnetizing, you have to be very careful because it will cause trouble if it will be troublesome if you do the wrong magnetizing. The index finger represents the female, the thumb represents the male. If you want them to have a harmonious relationship, then you press the thumb and the index finger together, and the three fingers are for dispelling the hindrances for the romantic relationship. It's like dispelling the those who might cause affairs, etc. So this is the visualization for marital relationships, for relationships between couples. However, if it's for harmonious relationships between superiors and colleagues, you visualize them in the center of the circle. So it's different from couples or spouses. For spouses, it's the thumb and index finger. You visualize them as male and female. But for the other kinds of relationship, don't visualize your thumb and index finger, but visualize them in the circle, within the circle. For subjugating, the mudra, there is a complicated detail, which is that after you form the mudra and you're doing the 转出名, you form the mudra, you visualize the person like an ant and crawling in front of you. So you shouldn't have the habit of crushing the ant because you might accidentally engender this sort of discursive thought. So visualize that person as small as an ant in front of you, and you start to recite the subjugating mantra. And after you recite the subjugating mantra, you cannot so after you finish reciting the mantra, before you end, then form the mudra again. You don't need to do the 转出名 again because you have already purified your hands. Visualize the black light or qi descending and gently touching. Don't crush the being to death, but it's it's a sort of like a threatening light, but lightly touching that being so that the person will be uncomfortable, uneasy, and quickly return you their money. So don't crush the being, but it's just to cause that person and easiness. So if the money doesn't belong to you, don't do this. But it's only if the person owes you money. So you can type in your questions and I'll answer them later. For Dharma treasures, it's your middle finger is erect, and that represents a key. So I will not go into detail for this, but all these mudras have their own significance and meaning. For Karman mudras, of the Rukuru Yoga, the main mudra is still the Pamakumara mudra. Once you have received the empowerment for these sadhanas, then when you visualize Pamakumara, you start with visualizing the descent of Pamakumara. You form the Pamakumara mudra, and there is no requirement to do the three-light blessing, but you can do it here if you want. But okay, now let's use the example of enriching sadhana. After you've done the Chuan Chuming, the turning of the mala illuminating blessing, then hold the enriching mudra, and this time do the visualization, put the mudra at your chest, and visualize Pamakumara shining brilliant yellow light, and the item that you're wishing for appears in your hand. And you can also visualize the image in your mind, and after you've completed the visualization, for instance, if you need a lot of wealth or if you are wishing for promotion and rank, then after that you recite the mantra. So after you do the visualization, you actually release the mudra and then you recite the mantra 108 times. Remember the posture for pacifying and enriching sadhanas, you are just sitting. But for magnetizing sadhanas, this is when you stand up. When you enter the main sequence of the preliminaries of the sadhana. So for magnetizing, this is the mudra, and after that you have to stand up and then squat. And after visualizing, you have to continue squatting, release the mudra, and chant the mantra 108 times. So subjugating is the same. When you enter the main sequence, you have to stand up, step on your foot, and you're stepping as though you're stepping on the other person, and this is uncomfortable position where your balance might be a little challenged. Only for the subjugating sadhanas, it's a little different from the other sadhanas. After you've done the Chuan Chuming, you don't have to form the subjugating mudra. You're just holding the mudra and the power it generates, but you don't have to do the gesture of crushing. You are just visualizing. So the black light doesn't have to enter into your right hand. However, you can also visualize blue light entering your right hand, and then after that, you release the mudra, and then you chant the mantra 108 times. And after you finish the mantra, then form the mudra, the Karman mudra again, and visualize the blue light coming again, and gently pressing on that being, and visualize the person coming to you. When you first visualize the person in front of you, you don't visualize the sequence of events, but only after you're finished chanting the mantra, then you visualize the light entering into your body, circulating and descending and shining on that person. So this is the place where the subjugating sadhanas are different from the other Karman Sadhanas. I will share the PowerPoint slides at the end of the lesson and with everyone. so you can look at it in detail. Here, Grandmaster is has a last piece of advice about the Karman Sadhanas, so you can read it carefully at your own time when you receive the slides. So for Karman Sadhanas, I have already mentioned the reasons for the times for practice. When the sun is right above your head, it's the best for subjugating sadhanas because it has the most power. So it has its own significance. And usually one cycle would be 7 days. So someone asked a question through the counselors or volunteers, can you practice 7 sessions of the Avalokiteshvara body shrine disaster averting sadhana in one day? No, you can't. You have to practice 1 session per day for 7 consecutive days. So there is a reason for this. So please do not accelerate the practice unduly, arbitrarily. So pacifying sadhanas are for helping other people. You cannot practice magnetizing sadhanas without proper reason. For instance, if you're a lay practitioner and you are trying to increase the attraction between you and another person, you need to first analyze that the other person has a suitable affinity with you and actually has some sort of liking toward you. You cannot practice the magnetizing sadhanas with the wrong intentions. And if you're trying to help someone with a pacifying sadhanas and the person is in an emergency situation in the hospital, you can practice it at any time of the month. You don't have to wait till like the first day. So every day there is a time period that corresponds to the pacifying sadhana. So you can practice during that specific time of the day, regardless of which day of the lunar month it is. So we learned about the 21 days of purification during the last lesson. Grandmaster has taught all the keys of the Karman Sadhanas to us. If you can apply all of them, you can apply all of them. However, if the Karman mudras, you don't want to use the Karman mudras, but you just want to visualize the light, then that's also fine. But if you can fulfill all the conditions, then you have so for instance, some people, if they can get well just by exercise. They don't have to take medicine. But some people, they need to take medicine as well as exercise to recover. So there is a little room for flexibility, but you can try to fulfill all the conditions if you can. If not, it's also fine. So the Karman Sadhanas can be flexibly applied. For instance, the way we recite the mantras, if you know how to apply it properly, you can make the adjustments accordingly. For instance, Om Ahom Gurbe Ahasa Maha Lian Sheng, Le Ling, so and so returns you money, so how? Lian Sheng City Home, sorry. If there is no 30th day on the lunar month, sorry, there's an error there's a typo in the Chinese characters. After the 10th day, it will not be referred to as Chu something. Only the first to the 10th day, it will be Chu Yi to Chu Shi. After that, there's no more Chu. So that's a typo. So I need to correct the slides before I share the PowerPoint. For subjugating sadhanas, these are for threatening to cause them to repent. it is not to harm other people. And there are actually a lot of details regarding subjugating sadhanas that are not openly disclosed. So what is taught here are at the most minimal level, and the most roughful subjugating sadhanas have, there are 8 kinds of secret altar setups, and there are even sadhanas that subjugating sadhanas where you have to find dharma implements such as knives that have been used in slaughterhouses for more than 3 years. So you cannot use the subjugating sadhanas carelessly because it will cause a lot of harm or damage. So you cannot use it to harm other people. Okay, so please take note, and they are only used for instance, if you need other people to return you money or just to cause them to repent to go back on the right path. And that's the end of today's lesson. And let's listen to some 2 songs that will summarize the content of today's class.
刚刚好9点。看到视频了吗？视频的话点一个头让我知道。那我开声音咯。
香气发香，香花共平分一桩，圆桌泛桌半圆墙，三角城灯光辉焰。白红黄黑各相依。晨曦里远心底，西线方向皆西长，皆莫分离黑西方。白光旗在阳下。云作北向日暮照，圣山慈悲不计还，清净光明遍西方。
This part is about enriching sadhanas, yellow light, increase in blessings and wisdom. Square table facing east and the sun is rising. The mantra sound should be clear, and wealth or riches will manifest. So white for pacifying sadhanas, yellow for enriching blessings, red for magnetizing, and black for subjugating. 7 days complete cycle. Please don't be careless or negligent. Karman Sadhanas can be flexibly used to help accomplish endeavors. For magnetizing, the red light manifests, and the mood or emotion is gentle and harmonious. It's a semicircle facing west. Practice this dhyana in the middle of the night. Squat and recite joyfully, to perfect or harmonize their interpersonal relationships. For subjugating, the black light shines to subjugate enemies. Triangle facing south, and your right foot is stepping on your left. Ruffle expression. It's for Dharma, for protecting the Dharma. So white for pacifying, yellow for enriching, red for magnetizing, black for subjugating. And remember, 7 days for one complete cycle. And this will lead to a successful accomplishment of the sadhana. So first turn the mala beads and then form the mudra. Recite the mantra, the heart mantra for the accomplishment of the sadhana. Visualize the light manifesting in front of your eyes and all the wishes or aspirations become fulfilled. The keys of the Karman mudras for pacifying, the 3 fingers are held upright as though you are swearing. Your thumb is pressing on your little finger, and you can visualize. You can point the mudra at other people or yourself for blessing, for the removal of hindrances, karmic hindrances. Hold the mudra like this, your thumb, and then on your palm, and then press the 4 fingers over your thumb. Then the yellow light enters your palm, and it transforms into what you need or you're wishing for. For magnetizing, your right hand forms a circle, and the thumb represents the male, the index finger represents the female. If you are practicing for harmonious interpersonal relationships in general, visualize the people within their circle to prevent any extra troubles, okay? For subjugating, the index finger lightly presses or forms or is used to hook the money that other people owe you, and practice the subjugating sadhana when the sun is right above your head. You're borrowing this power for subjugating. And repeated reminder for emergency situations. The dates are flexible, and Karman Sadhanas can be adapted or flexibly utilized. For subjugating, you cannot use it to harm other people. For pacifying, you need to generate compassion to avert the disaster, to pacify the disaster. Mantra. Everything's like a illusory dream, and it will ultimately return to quietude or quiescence or tranquility.
希望大家看了这个视频后，
Karman Sadhanas says, I hope that after watching the video, I hope you have a deeper impression of today's class. And let's hand the baton back to the host, Dharma Assistant Long Ying. Thank you, Marcelina. preparation.
在其中还没
So
出
we're
来。
still immersed in that feeling,
这
and we
样
still
闻
haven't
到
tasted it.
的是一
And
种
now
的
we have
愿望
arrived
是
at the
海今天
Q&A
还有
segment
哪
for
些
today's lesson. And let's look at what are the questions for today's lesson.
宝中师兄问阿弥陀
The
佛，
first
请问
is
娘来上师，
Amitabha Maslin
那
Lai.
如果住在地
If
球北极区
one
或
is
是南极区
lives
时，就是
in the
在
North
北
Pole or
纬
the
和
South
南纬某个角
Pole,
度以
or
上，会有一天24小时都有太阳，
and
或者一天24
if
小
there
时
is a
都更
day with 24 hours
那
of
要如
sunlight
何
or a
信
day
西征
without
诸
being
法
able to see the sunlight at all, how does one practice the
风情
four
的
Karman
师兄
Sadhanas?
我们施以解惑。
这个问题是故意来刁难的，是吗？
This question is to cause trouble,
如
right?
同刚才所说，你能
It's
用多少就用多少啊，因为假如你是
use
在
as
这个
much of
南
the
极、北
supporting
极的话，
conditions
表
as you
示
can,
表
because if
示
you
你
are
的
living in
宿
the
命
North
啊，
Pole or
你
the
不可以
South Pole,
借这个太阳的
you
上
then
下
you're
凡
not
的力
able to
量来加
borrow
强
the
你对
power
佛
of
法，
the
但是
sun
不能说少
to
了这个就没
strengthen
有这个力
your
量，
the power
那
of your
你就
Karman
用这个，
Sadhanas.
你可以
However,
做
it
的是
doesn't
什
mean
么？
that the
就是你
Karman
的
Sadhanas are totally
日
not
子，
effective,
这个跟
but you
太
can
阳上不
choose
上下不上有
the
关系
dates
嘛，
of the lunar
那你可
month,
以
and
借
this
你
has
的戒
nothing to
莫
do
手印，
with
这个
the
也
whether
跟
the
它有
sun
关系
rises or
啊。
sets.
只是说
And
这
you
个
can
戒
also
莫
form the
里面
Karman
的这
mudras,
种你能运用这
but
些
it's just that
它
when you're
的
practicing the
作
Karman
用少
Sadhanas,
了一个而已嘛，但是
the
不
one of
代
the
表说你不
conditions is
能
not
修
met, but it
你
doesn't
的
mean
方
that
法。
you cannot practice the
在
Karman
这个
Sadhana
时
at
呢，
all. So
只
you
是
can
说你的
still
方法
practice
没有
it,
时间而
however,
已，
you're not
所以
able
你
to
就
fulfill all the conditions.
把自己的房间弄暗吧。
So you can maybe turn off the lights in your room.
好，谢谢上师。
Or
我们看下一题。
thank you, Master. And here's the next question.
对，青蓝少问的，请问上师，讲解宝布的作用是什么？
For
要求什么
Dharma
才需要
treasures
用？
function,
要
what
求什
are
么
the
的时候要
requirements,
用到？
or when do we use this, what do we
请
pray
看回
for when
上个
we
星
practice
期
this?
的课程，
Master
简
Lai
单来
says,
说，它就
please
是为
refer to
了
the lesson from
求
last week.
出世间的
Simply
宝物
said, it's
啊，
to
出世间
pray
宝物
for
这个
transcendental
佛
Dharma
法上的
treasures,
这些
which
这
are
些佛
related
法
to
的法，
Buddha
比如说
Dharma,
符藏， 或
for
者这
instance,
种
Dharma
能帮助
treasures,
超越这
or
个人间的一种宝物。
for
简单来
Dharma
讲就是这
treasures
样
that
的。
help you to transcend the worldly
是
or
来
secular
求
realm.
出世间的一些宝贵的东西。下一题，
The next question.
是莲花映英师姐问的，上师您好，我在雷藏寺工作，
I
曾有
am
昏
working
迷
at
重
a
病家属
Leizang
来请
temple,
教，
and
该
often
如
there
何
are
给予最恰当的
relatives
方
of
法？
patients who
另
are
外
in
也
a
有
coma.
癌症末期
What
或
can
植
we
物
do
人的家
to
属
help?
来求救，该
Or
如何帮助
there are
被毁的
people
家
who
属？
whose
他们
relatives
都是学中
are
和尚弟子，
veg
我曾经让
in the
家
vegetable
属
state, or
以
they are
宝
in the
金
terminal end
加
stage of
莲花蜡
cancer.
烛灯来
Um,
祈求师傅做主安排一切。
and
由
I
于
have
亡者第二天晚上
sometimes
会比较
recommended
醒
that the
来，
relatives
并因为瘫痪的
use
时候
the
马上在当天晚生，
9
但近期有
treasures
一
joss
些家
paper
属来
with
请
a
祈
lotus
求，并无
lamps and
效，
pray for
为之
grandmaster's
很深感疑
blessing
惑，
or
能
divine
不能为
arrangement for
力
everything.
求
And
解
the
答？
next day, the person in the coma
关
immediately
于这个问
wakes
题
up
啊，
from
首
the
先第一个
coma, or
步骤
the
不是
another
先帮
person
他
who is in
做
a
芥末
vegetable
法，
state
而
um,
是写信。
passes
假
away
如
the
你有
very
中
next
文网
day.
站的话，直
Um,
接写
but
请求
recently
跟
there
雷
have
藏
been
师
some
讲，
relatives who
一般
came
道
and
场他们有
prayed,
自己的他的中物
but
的
these
网站
practices
的
have
号
not
啊，
be
他们是可以
have
帮
been
同门
ineffective.
求加持。
So, and I feel very
先
sad and
根
helpless.
本上是
So
求
we
加
pray
持，那
for
个已经是
your
最大的芥
advice.
末作用了。假如
Master
你
Lai
私
replies
下
that you
想帮他
can
们修的
actually
话，一般来
um,
讲，你用
write
简单的方
to
法，比如说
True Buddha
你可以用
Foundation
多
for
少的
Grandmaster's
刚才
blessing
这次
of
的课堂里
of
面
these
教的
people,
方法，就是
and
以
you
此
can
咒的力
try
量，以芥
using
末手
the
印的力
power of
量
mantra
观想，然
recitation
后
taught
加
during
持
this
他们。
lesson and the
关于他
Karman
们
mudras,
好还是不
etc.,
好，其
to
实你不要
pray
把这种责任
for
放
them.
在自己的身上，
Whether
因为
the
你要知道
people
这种是共
recover,
业来的
you
哦。
should
假
not
如对方是要
try
好
not
的话，
to feel as though you need to bear responsibility for that person's state. Because if that person is not meant to get well, they will, even if everyone tries to help that person will still not get well. So,
做
so
错不正确的方法帮他，
So
所以这个不是
even
我
if
们个
other
人的
people
个
try
人
to
做
help
法，
them,
做家
sometimes they
人
might
做
learn the
在
wrong
自己的身
things
上
or
哦，我
they
们
might
先要做的
meet
是
the
先
wrong
有
people,
自己要跟着
etc.
上主
So
下
we need
去。
to first
假如
pray
你
for
本身有本尊
grandmasters,
的话，
our root guru's
你有
blessing.
修本
And
尊
if
法、
you
本尊
have
法有
practiced
相
to
应的话，再
Yidam
去
Yoga
自己的
and
善
there's
根的
Yoga
加
unit,
持都
you
可
can
以的。
practice for your three
尽力
roots,
而为就好
your
了。
root Yidam,
做法
your root
本身
guru,
来
your
讲，
root
你要
Yidam,
你
your
要
root
本身
Dharma
自己有
protector to
正念
bless
之
them.
后做，
And you
这个
first
叫
need to
帮助。
have that power
你假如
before
要
you
想帮
can
别人的话， 跟帮
help
助
other
你的话， 那
people.
你就不
So
需要
if
去
you're
找
helping
这个观点。
yourself, then you don't have to worry about this point. But if you're trying to help other people, you need to have a certain
我们看
level
一下
of
可可还有其
um,
他的问题吗？
accomplishment in order to be able to help other people successfully or to help other people. Are there other questions?
那今天的释疑解惑
And
就到此为止。
that's the end of
我们非
today's
常感
lesson.
恩
And
四
let's
年来
thank
上师
Master
这一段
Yan
时间
Lai
以来
for
为我
his
们精心
for
备
his
课，
teachings
把他忙
during this period of
所学
time.
的精华和满腔
And
的热
he has
情，
distilled the
把
essence
古老
of
深奥
his
的
knowledge
秘法， 用
and
非常
done a
风
lot of
趣幽
preparation
默的说法，非常
and
生动
taught
的讲
simply
授
and humorously through his
深奥
classes
的秘法， 流行
profound
歌曲
Dharma.
补充一
音
下
律。好，
关于
Master
这次的
Yan
真果
Lai
密法
says that
2所有的课程啊， 也许
supplement
你们会发现有一些观点跟理
for this
论
course,
不是在
maybe
平时的时候看到或听到的，这些
you might
请
find
大
that some
家
of
以
these
这种
keys
作为参考。
have not been
所
taught
有的这种
or reviewed
假如你们真的
generally,
有疑惑
and you
不
can
清
use
楚的话，
them
还是
as a
以师
reference. If
尊
you have
为
any
主，
questions,
让
please
师尊帮你
have
们
Grandmaster as the main
释疑解
de
惑，或者
facto
在你问
point
的
of
话，请
reference,
师尊给
and
你
you
们
can
一个更清
also
楚的答
invite
案。
Grandmaster
所
to give
以希
you
望
the
大
proper
家在持
answer.
续的课程当中，是让你们
Consult
知道
Grandmaster.
这个
So
课程
these
的观点，至少
the
到后
points
面时
mentioned
候，
in
你们要用
the
自己的智慧
class
去分析，然
are
后
taught for your
在
reference,
做
and then
看
you have
师
to
的
use
一
your own
个
wisdom
认
to
证。因为
analyze
师
and
尊每
to
次传完
discern.
法之后啊，
And you
陆
also
续
need
你们就
to
不断
read
的在讲解，所以你会
more
发
of
现有些
Grandmaster's
出入
books.
是正
So
常的。
after
包括我
Grandmaster
们自己
has
上
taught
次，
or
有时候在
transmitted
写成
a
一些观点之后，
Siddhana,
师尊又在教
key
一些
or
新的
Dharma,
观点，所
Grandmaster
以
might
有
teach a
时候
new
这些观点
perspective
是在
later
开
on
始的时候我们没有
subsequently.
听
So
过，
these
所
are
以有时候会
reviewed
忽略
gradually.
到。所
So
以
sometimes
请以一个
even
不上
masters might
师
not
的
always hear
法
them all
教
at
为
once.
主。好，谢
So
谢大家。
please refer to Grandmaster's teachings as the de
我们上次
facto
还是非
reference.
常的谨慎。今后
We
他已经
thank
十分用
Master
心
Lian
的
Lai
去
for
收
his
集、
very
去
thoughtful
请教
and
达
careful
到
and
把
attentive
把神通
teaching
师
of
所学
the
的这些非常秘
practices,
密的、我们没有接触过
all
的，
these very
都分享
secret
给我
keys
们。
that we have
确实
not
是我们
heard
对我们
of
来说没
in
有
general
很
or
多的，
before.
但是全
So we
新的
have
收获
learned
真的
a lot
很
of
有
new
限。
things
但
during
上次
the
还是很
lessons.
谨慎的，
And
将我
he
们
has been
继
he has
续
taught
有疑
these
惑的时候再请
with
师尊来细
very
讲解。
carefully.
真是令人赞叹这种
So this is
知道
really very
的
praiseworthy,
度。
and we thank him very much
所
for
以呢，
this.
在这一段时间里面，我
And
们真的是
we
非常
have
感恩。
really
特别
benefited
是最
from the
近
lessons
安
and
塞
are very
的这个深奥的
appreciative.
秘法，结合流行歌曲的
And
音
recently,
律，
he has even used the
用艺
method
术的
of
形式来体现，
incorporating
唤
the
醒人的
keys
本质，
into
真是令人
um,
百听不厌。
music
那我们一
to
起
help
在
us
留言
remember
区输
the
入888来
keys
感
of
恩我
the
们敬爱
of the
的四
practices.
连
So
来上
type
师，
in
期待
888 in the
之
chat
后上
for
师
the
继
Zoom
续再给我们带来更多更多
session
精
to
彩的
thank
课程。
Master Lian
以后还
Lai
有机
for
会
his
听上
teachings
师讲
and
课。
hope that we can
我们
listen to
下
his
次见。
teachings again in the future.
那我
要
们今
拍
天
照
的
吗？
对今天的课
And
程
now
呢，
let's take a
就
group photo.
到了我们倒数10秒，和
So
四
let's
连来
count
上
down
师一
from
起
10.
拍大合照的时间，请大家打开你们的摄像
So
头，
if convenient,
根
please
据
turn
你们
on
自己
your
的衣
video
服、
camera. You can
发
adjust your
型、
attire, your
打
hair,
扮，非
and
常美
put
美
on your
的微
most
笑和上
beaming beaming smile,
可以。
and let's take a photo with Master in light. Is the backhand ready?
10了，
Let me count down.
10、
10,
9、
9,
8、
8,
7、
7,
6、
6,
5、
5,
4、
4,
3、
3,
2、
2,
1，
1.
好了吗？
Okay, thank you
现在
everyone.
大家可以
And
开
now you
麦
can
和
turn
上
on
师
your
说
microphones
出
to
你
say
的
farewell or
心里的话，或者
to
和上师说。
Master 连来。
还说心里的话，加班了。
谢谢上师，
好，谢谢大家，
感恩上师的
感恩
慈悲教
上师
导。
谢谢上师，谢谢，
上师，谢谢上师，
如意吉祥，
谢谢上师，今天
谢谢上师，
谢谢上师，
精彩授课，
下图见。
下周见。
我们都很喜欢您的课啊。
联合上师吉祥。
联合上师，
联合上师呢？拜
莲
拜。
芳法师你好。
上师，
哎，师姐好。
老师好。
老师姐
好，那我下线了，不然的话大家一直挂在网。
好，谢谢，再见。
谢谢上师，谢谢，
拜拜。
再见，拜拜。
谢谢上师主任，阿弥拜拜。
我们也感谢所有幕后付出的义工，谢谢所有的同门参加线上的课程。
谢谢
我们下节课再见。下节课是由武志在老师给大家上通识课哈，欢迎大家参加。
好，
And
谢
next
谢。
lesson will be a general education class by Dharma brother Wu Zizai.
大家再见。